The Bears have finally stolen the Ravens' offense, and it took them long enough. After slogging through the beginning of their schedule, scoring just 15.5 points per game, they've literally doubled that to 31 over their last 4. By swiping bits and pieces of the Ravens' offense, where Lamar Jackson tears through defenses like tissue paper, the Bears have added that same electricity through scheme. After calling just 13 designed quarterback runs in their first 6 games, they've called 32 in their last 4. They've used a new strategy to unleash the biggest weapon on their offense, Justin Fields' legs, and from a points per game standpoint have gone from one of the worst offenses in the league to one of the best. After studying the film, the best way I can explain it is to break it down into 3 different parts: what the Bears stole, what they've tweaked to make it even more devastating, and what defenses need to do to counter. But before we dive deeper, I want to thank my partner, Underdog Fantasy. They are a fantasy football app that I'm extremely excited to work with since I've been using them anyway for the last several years. Their games that I've been playing the most recently is their pick'em games, where you select 2 to 5 players and bet their over-under stat for that game. You pick 5 and win, that is 20 times your entry in just one night. You can choose any game you want as long as it's on the slate. I won all of Amon-Ra over 79.5 yards. He's the only guy in town I trust there. And I'll take the over on Kelsey too, because that man is the Charger killer. Make your 5 picks, bet $10 or whatever you want, and when all 5 hit, I win $200. As long as you choose any player in the slate, you can play whatever and whoever you want. It's easy, it's simple, you can win a lot of money. Use my promo code Rollins to get a match deposit of up to $100. So you put in $100, it instantly turns into $200. That's promo code Rollins. Kicking off part 1, the Bears stole the Ravens' offense in part to maximize Fields' running ability and to create a numbers advantage in the box. Ideally on defense, you always have one more defender in the box than the offense has blockers so that there's a defender for each gap. NFL running backs are so good, they'll find the open gap every time if not, and so that if each defender does get blocked, there's still one more guy to hit the ball carrier. Why the Ravens and Bears designed QB runs are so effective is because the quarterback adds another number. QBs aren't usually accounted for in the count since they're not going to block or run, but now with Fields as a viable runner, this completely changes the game. The Bears have copied the same mechanics and formula on their zone read, and moving on to part 2, they've made some little adjustments to maximize stress on the defense. This is much more of an outside attacking ground game than the Ravens. The Bears want Fields to stay outside more so he doesn't get beat up, and so he can use his long speed up the sideline. Using Fields as the outside threat and David Montgomery as the inside threat creates a ton of conflict, and with all the added motion and different formations the Bears use, there's too much going on for each defender. Pretty much every one of their designed quarterback runs has a read element where they leave a defender completely unblocked. Here the box count is 7 defenders with 6 blockers, but with Fields counting as a runner, the running back now becomes a blocker too, making the count 7 for 7. Before the snap, they motion Cole Kmet over to gain an additional blocker, and watch what they do to the end Matthew Judon. Instead of blocking the Patriots' best player, they don't block him at all. Fields can either give the ball to David Montgomery on inside zone if Judon stays upfield, or keep the ball if Judon crashes for Montgomery. This is a way to even additionally steal another number away from the defense and creates tons and tons of confusion. Look at everything Judon has to try and process in just a couple of milliseconds. First, this could be a quick toss to Kmet coming across on the jet sweep. This could be straight inside zone with Montgomery coming inside, where Kmet would be blocking him. Kmet could be running to the flat on play action, Fields could keep it on the zone read, or he could keep it and throw. Judon has to deal with all 3 elements in the backfield in the blink of an eye, and by the time he figures out what's happening, he's a good 5 yards behind the play. And now, by adding more different types of runs in the backfield, they can use more different types of play action since they've just shown him the run look. Kmet motions across the formation again, this time to kick out the end in pass pro, and with the second level sucked up, Fields attacks the void in the middle. To defend the zone read, there are many things you can do. You can plug and sit, where the linebacker plugs inside for the give no matter what, and the defensive end sits for the QB keep no matter what. But you need to have great discipline as an end to sit outside. Plus, you have to keep up with Justin Fields one-on-one in a ton of space against an offense that tries to attack you outside. Good luck. The Bears use motion and formation to make sure that the Lions have to use plug and sit, and that Julian Okwara is the read defender. By motioning Equanimeous St. Brown over, that forces Okwara to jump onto the line and the second level to bump over, and with a tight end and fullback on the ball to the left, both linebackers have to what's called boss over, which means they have to shade towards the strong side of the formation to match the extra bodies. Many teams use a scrape exchange instead of plug and sit, which just switches the responsibilities of Okwara, who now crashes for the give, and Derek Barnes, who would sit for the keep. But due to the formation and motion, Barnes is bossed way over, so Okwara is the sit guy and gets absolutely burnt. The Bears are aware of all these different adjustments defenses can make, but are still able to use formation to give certain guys too much to think about. This is the same zone read concept, and the Dolphins are using plug and sit. Bradley Chubb is the read defender, but teams, not even the Ravens, don't typically run this with a split back formation, with the fullback Kari Blasingame running directly at Chubb at the snap. He's used to being unblocked in the zone read game, so his brain short circuits a bit when he sees it, creating tons of room around the edge. But you can't just rely on one or two concepts and hope the defense never catches on. You need counters to the defense's counters. When the Lions started emphasizing their plug and sit rules, the Bears started using speed option to attack the read defender. Khalil Herbert starts towards the inside like it's zone read again, but to punish the Lions for flowing too hard in that direction, Fields actually runs left to isolate the end Charles Harris. Harris either sits for Fields and gives up the entire edge, or leaves a wide gaping hole up the middle for Fields to run through. Speed option keeps the edge honest and makes him play every direction. When the Lions go, okay, we cannot let this keep happening, let's extra focus on Fields no matter what, look at the effect this has on the edge. He gets his ass torn up with that much more space for Herbert to run through. This has also opened up the Bears' RPO game, where they can punish defenses for overplaying the zone read, and this has helped Fields' passing numbers a little. With defenses having to almost primarily play one high safety coverages against the Bears, since if they were playing too high, they'd have even less of an advantage in the box, so the Bears face a ton of cover 1 man or cover 3 zone. With defenses playing more 5-man fronts to cover up all the gaps the Bears are attacking, this leaves just 2 defenders in the box at the second level, with Jalen Phillips the keep defender and Kader Kohou the give. You're basically forcing Kohou to both guard a receiver and a gap in the run game. Cover 3 zone has 3 deep defenders, so Kohou basically has to guard both receivers and that run responsibility. It's just impossible to ask him to do all 3. The Bears have relentlessly attacked teams outside, but also love to use their quarterback draw series, which philosophically is pretty different than the rest of their run game, so it gives them a nice balance. Instead of condensing everybody inside, their draw series empties everybody outside and forces the defense to guard everything horizontally. Then the center pretends to block, squirts out up the middle, and Fields follows him and just picks whatever hole he can find. This brings us to our third and final part, what defenses need to do to counter, and generally speaking, it's much easier said than done. Almost all the film we study today shows blatant evidence that defenses simply have not prepared well enough for this new version of the Bears running game. Just like anything, you need to practice against option football, because defenses need to be reminded of how their keep and give rules work. Staying that disciplined against a different style of football is extremely hard if you haven't practiced against it, and teams need to adjust to the Bears' new offense because they aren't playing against their old one. If I was game planning against them, I'd use an extreme version of what defenses have done against the Ravens, which is load up the box even more than Nick Cannon, pay more attention to Fields than any of their running backs, and put all the pressure on him to make throws outside to his subpar receivers. That should have been the answer the last few weeks. Defenses haven't adjusted, so guys, it's time. The Bears have finally found a formula that's helped them score points, and shockingly, it's all centered around their quarterback's best attribute. Fields has the most rushing yards by a QB over a 5-game span, is the first quarterback with back-to-back games of 140 yards rushing, and he set the single-game QB rushing record with 178 yards. Stealing the Ravens' running game is something they should have done all along, but credit to them for finally doing it and having all the success. They went from 2 designed quarterback runs per game to 8 and literally doubled their points per game, and it's the way they use these little adjustments off of what the Ravens do which has set them apart. Can defenses improve against it? Of course, but Justin Fields is as rare of a talent running the ball as we've ever seen. After just a few games of the new run game, Fields is just getting started. Chicago has been lit on fire despite their record, and as the Bears begin bearing down, Justin Fields will light you up.